everyone here. I'd like to start with doing Buddhist mantra for a little while. Yeah, I will. Find my place. So let's not do the full visualization right this minute, but bring to mind the Buddha in the space in front. Or you can envision the refuge field as detailed as you wish, but really focusing on the Buddha. And recall this collection of qualities that we label the Buddha through countless lifetimes of completely purifying the mind, eliminating every shred of affliction mind states by eliminating every shred of both the clinging to, of course, and even the appearance of inherent existence. A mind so filled with wisdom that there's nothing that stops it. A mind that pervades all of space. There's nothing left in that purified mind to obscure it. And within those qualities, and after lifetimes, uncountable lifetimes of cultivating compassion and love for living beings, this mind is imbued with those qualities and almost compulsively, you could say, is in constant motion to benefit living beings. There's no one who is deserving or undeserving. No discrimination between right or wrong, or kinds of people, or what we've done or what we haven't done. The love and compassion generates spontaneously from the Buddha in the space in front of us and all the Buddhas throughout space. We never need to doubt that we are included within the Buddha's purview of love, compassion, and wisdom. So feel first a sense of being in the presence of that holy being. And soften your heart to that. And we know that it's also true that we are surrounded by living beings. Always have been. Always will be until we're the Buddha who's benefiting them. Completely interconnected. So bring to mind specific people that you're particularly concerned about. And bring in your mother on your left, your father on your right, family members in every direction, difficult people in front. And open your heart to know that each and every one of these beings, including ourselves, right now, under the influence of our karma and afflictions, as completely prone to impermanence. Completely saturated with the experience of dukkha and all its many permutations. Obscured by our clinging to a self, the one that doesn't exist. And out of that comes our endless suffering. And that's true for every single being. Until we've been able to hear the Buddha's teachings and not just practice, but reach the point where we can really realize the wisdom that is the purpose of almost every teaching we receive. I think everyone. To free us and to free every living being from this cycle of dukkha brought about by our ignorance and craving. So generate a feeling of compassion for each of these beings around us. Tender-hearted love that really wishes them to be happy. Wishes them to be free of all suffering. And wishes that for ourselves. Knowing that we have met these teachings and have at least a keyhole, if not a doorway, yet. We have a very, very precious treasure in our hearts, in our minds, in our hands right now. And we can make a determination to use this treasure so that we can and will liberate ourselves, take ourselves to full awakening, following the Buddha, so that we can do that for every being. So let's do the Buddha's mantra just 21 times to let that sink in using the mantra. And then we'll go ahead and do the first part of the practice, taking refuge and so forth. Tayata mune mune maha mune soha. 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 Tayata Mune Mune Maha Munaye Soha Taya Tao 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 Mune Mune Maha Munaye Soha. So sit with that for a minute, just being in the presence of the Buddha, feeling your deep connection. And then expanding our view, if you haven't, to include all three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Each aspect is completely essential to our truly taking refuge. We'll do the Refuge and Bodhicitta chant and the four immeasurables. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So here's where we're going to do the talk this morning, in this spot, and then we'll carry on with the practice. When I was preparing for this, of course, quite a few days ago, there's something very interesting about trying to do talks on refuge for this Nundro, because of course the Lam Rim outline is so very, very clear about the steps that we take in developing refuge. And then you have the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, where His Holiness and Venerable Children have completely shaken up the system in order to, or the outline anyway, in order to be more relevant, I guess, to the way English-speaking Western students train. So to go back and forth, like to go with Lam Rim, to go with Venerable Children and His Holiness. So today I was going to kind of take the His Holiness and Venerable Children approach. And last week we covered what are the causes for taking refuge, right? Do you remember what those reasons for taking refuge are?
Concern about the lower realms.
Concern about the lower realms and samsara in general. I believe I found a word that Venerable uses. Anyway, not just concern. Fear is one of the things they say, but also, fear of samsara, but a wise fear. And so Venerable Children uses different kinds of words, like, I wrote them out. Do you have them in mind? Or like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is a wise fear.
Like the wise caution when you
Like,
enter traffic.
yes, like the wise caution when you enter traffic. So it's an understanding that our situation in samsara is really fraught, really fraught. And looking around, as we quoted last week from Shantideva, where is there any refuge? Then to find the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha as a refuge is kind of amazing. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, conviction, trust, confidence in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to guide us. And so the second 2 points underneath that in the Lam Rim outline is to therefore become very familiar with Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So I was going to spend a lot more time on the Buddhist today, but I'm not. But I do want to, the direction I went with this is like, okay, we call ourselves Buddhist. Buddhist. What does the ist mean? What is the ist part of that phrase? So I looked it up. I didn't know off the top of my head. One that performs an action, like a cyclist. One that performs an action, I think, like a Buddhist. One that makes or produces a specified thing, like a novelist. One that plays a musical interest, like a harpist. One that operates a specified mechanical instrument or contrivance, like a machinist. One that specializes in a special skill. One that adheres to or advocates a specified doctrine or system of code of behavior. Or one that adheres to or advocates a code of behavior that is embraced by a specific individual. So we're getting closer to what we would call a Buddhist. But if we are a Buddhist, one who does Buddha, one who becomes Buddha, one who enacts Buddha, one who performs Buddha, or, I mean, we could actually think of all of these things in a way. So what does it mean to be Buddhist? That's really part of our understanding of what Buddha is. And the more detailed our understanding of what Buddha is, what Dharma is, what Sangha is, and how we embody that in our daily life, the more Buddhist, the more truly we are Buddhist, right? So the definition, what is a Buddha? A fully awakened being who has totally eliminated all obscurations that veil the mind and has fully developed all good qualities to perfection. We know that definition, right? It sounds so very simple. Enlightenment, full awakening, omniscience, the ultimate goal of a Mahayana Buddhist, attained when all obscurations have been removed and all the qualities of the mind have been fully actualized. A state characterized by perfect compassion, wisdom, and power. Power is really like skillful means, the power to benefit. So I was thinking of, in the last day or so, Venerable telling the story of someone who came to her when I think her mother had died. And sounded kind of complaining. I'm not sure that's the word Venerable used. That said, in tragedies like this, Buddhism really has nothing to answer, nothing to help. Christianity gives you a lot more hope. And I was thinking about that story. And I was thinking, what I think is actually true is that's only so if we haven't thought deeply about what Buddhist means for ourselves, what we have internalized about the Buddhist worldview. And I think of my great-grandmother, who was the most devout Christian and pure Christian, not in any way hypocritical about it, really deeply, profoundly Christian and helpful to living beings. And at the end of her life, she, her only child, my grandfather, only living child, passed away before she did. And then I think shortly after my great-grandfather did. So she's alone in the world. And for the rest of her days, my great-grandmother was praying to be relieved of her suffering, to pass away. And she didn't. And she didn't. And she didn't. And the pain for her of not understanding what I had been promised. I can't even imagine how, the disappointment or the letdown of not understanding why she could not get what she was praying for because she was experiencing so much suffering. And I think about that often because it's, I loved her very much. I was very close to her. And to think about how we spend our lives studying the Buddha's teaching, starting with the Four Truths. It's so soothing in some way to own and acknowledge that the Buddha told us the truth. From the day he said, I'm going to share what I have learned, he said, here are four truths. Here are four things that are true, that I see with my awakened mind. That sentient beings are, all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Everything is changing, just like this, right? We don't see it, we don't hold it, we cling to the opposite, and that's one of the first distorted thoughts that give us so much suffering. The second thing he said about that truth of dukkha is that all contaminated phenomena is in the nature of dukkha. Contaminated by our ignorance, not contaminated by themselves. Not that, this piece of paper is in and of itself contaminated, but contaminated by my ignorant attachment to clinging to it to exist in a way that it doesn't. And then craving it to be what I want it to be. So he was so vividly clear that our suffering comes again from clinging to wishing happiness from something that it can't bring. It cannot bring by its very nature. And beneath that, and really the source of that, is that we cling to the self. We cling to the a coarser level. We cling to this self that we are certainly trying to control ourselves, our aggregates, that we have some control over them. That anybody does. And our distorted view that the self, it just generates all kinds of problems. The self is the center of the universe. The self is the one that needs to be fed. The self is the one that has the highest priority on the planet. Our needs are the greatest needs. It all follows forth from this misunderstanding of both our selflessness and our emptiness. And of course, the clinging to that which is by nature foul as pure. I got them out of order, but again, it's a complete distortion. And the Buddha said it right up front. This is the nature of our confusion. And he did not stop there. He said, and these are the causes. The causes are our karma and our afflictions. Our afflicted mind actually comes before karma. I always get that backwards. Our afflictions, our ignorance that is grasping at inherent existence from this perspective, that apprehends everything to be existing in and of itself, immediately makes a me, that's the most important thing in the world, a you, that is either going to make me happy or not make me happy. If you make me happy, great, I like you a lot, don't ever leave me, I'm going to cling to, and if you don't make me happy, then get the hell out of my life, now. And we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Unfortunately, he did not stop there. He went on to say, and things don't have to be this way. Is that a Dale Carnegie's thing? It doesn't have to be this way. That, in fact, it's possible to cease the afflictions. It's possible to purify the karma. It's possible to liberate the mind completely. And from the Mahayana perspective, to become fully awakened. And there are pathways in our mind that we can cultivate to eliminate this ignorance. And that is the wisdom that takes us to awakening. And the Buddha gave these teachings from his own experience, out of his own wisdom. Really, the ultimate refuge is the realizations in the Buddha's mind and how they come down to us by this text is the conventional Dharma. And when we live within the Four Noble Truths, when we have taken this in as the foundational piece of our practice, then the level of our capacity to be able to accept what comes, what arises, grows. That's a really conventional and kind of short-term way of taking refuge. But when it then comes to difficult, challenging things, when we've steeped our mind in this, when we have steeped our mind in this, that we don't have to ask, where is God? We don't have to ask, why is my prayer not being answered? We don't have to ask, where is the intervention that's going to change things? We have come to understand in ourselves, this is the nature of dukkha. This is the nature of our confused reality. And knowing that, to what extent we realize that, of course, lessens the pain. But knowing that can also bring a lot of comfort. That our friend, whoever that was saying to Venerable children, there's no comfort in the Buddha Dharma in times like this. Not so. Not so. And further, the more we learn about the Buddha, and we're not going to go very any further into this today, we'll do it again next week. But the more we learn about the Buddha, the more we learn about the Buddha's qualities, the more we learn about the realizations in the minds of the Sangha, the more we learn about our capacity to do it, the more we understand about the mind and how our mind has this potential right this very minute, and that everything we do heading in that direction is helping us to realize that Buddha potential in ourselves. The more faith and confidence we have in that, the more we're able to bring everything into the path within that framework. So it's not magical thinking. No, it's not waiting for, Tara or anybody to come swoop down and fix it. It's resting in our ever deepening understanding that the Buddha told the truth. And that's why we're here. Every one of us knew the Buddha told the truth. And we've all probably been angry about the fact that the Buddha told the truth. We've all fought it. We've argued about it. We've all had our thing with the Buddha told the truth. And the Buddha told the truth. And that is a joyful, actually, knowing, because we have the pathway, we have a direction, we have a guidance for how to work with that truth, how to overcome that truth in the long term. And it starts with accepting that truth as a first really step of deepening into our refuge. So I thought with that in mind that we could go ahead and do the practice this morning. Continuing with the recitation, I'll now do the full visualization, and we'll just pick up at the 7-limb prayer. And then we can spend some time on the mantra, Namo Guruvya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghya. If you wish to stick with the Buddha, that's fine. If you want to spend your whole time just doing meditation, or allowing the light coming in from the Buddha. If you want to spend time just doing Dharmaya, having the light come in from the Dharma texts. If you want to do all four, whichever works best for your mind. We've done this often enough, I think you can be flexible. But we do it with a deep sense of taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and letting this practice go deeply with us. Yeah. Maybe we should take refuge again, just get the whole thing in sequence. So here's the visualization first. So let's settle back, think about your own Buddha potential. Once again, connecting with the Buddha that we've already visualized in the space in front. But now imagine him surrounded by an ocean of Samantabhadra offerings on this glorious, precious throne. His smaller throne on top of a huge, spacious throne. Your root spiritual mentor is appearing in the form of Shakyamuni Buddha. Body is a pure golden radiant light. He's adorned with a crown protrusion. Buddha's left hand is in the gesture of meditation, and his right hand is in the earth-touching gesture. Rays brighter than the sun radiate from his body in the 10 directions. Eyes never tire of his resplendent form with its perfect, vivid signs and marks. Ears never tire of his enchanting speech with its 60 melodies. His vast and profound mind is a treasure of knowledge and love whose depth is beyond measure. Free from all stains of imperfection, he is the consummation of all good qualities. The mere recollection of the Buddha dispels the anxieties of cyclic existence and self-complacent peace. Sit with that a moment. The mere recollection of the Buddha dispels the anxieties of cyclic existence and self-complacent peace. So then on the throne to the right of the Buddha is Maitreya, surrounded by a Sangha and the spiritual mentors of that lineage. On his left is Manjushri and Arjuna and all the spiritual mentors of the profound view. Behind him is Vajradhara, all the lineage lamas of that, whatever tradition that you particularly practice. And on a smaller throne in front of him is your own teacher in the aspect of teaching, surrounded by all your other teachers. Surrounding them in a big circle, like here we are in a big coliseum. The deities of highest yoga tantra, the circle of the deities of the other tantras, all of the deities we know well, each one of whom has the same qualities as the Buddha. They all are Buddha. Surrounding these is a row of bodhisattvas, the two circles of arhats, dakkas and dakinis, the Dharma protectors. This amazing expanse of holy beings, realized beings, radiating their light to us and all the beings around us. And with caution, for continuing willy-nilly in cyclic existence, confidence in their guidance. We'll do the full recitation, starting with Namo Gurubhya. Namo Gurubhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurubhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Gurubhya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. By the merit I create by engaging in generosity and the other far-reaching practices, I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the Great Awakening. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, four-land sun and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure and inspire me and others to be free from the three poisonous attitudes. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. And turning your attention to the refuge field. We'll spend 7 or 8 minutes doing the mantra. Namo Guruvya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghya, or just pick one. But start with a few, at least 3 of the 4, doing all 4, and then do the one that most connects with you. Imagine the light pouring into you, white light, completely purifying all negativities, especially those that we have engaged in regarding the object of refuge. And then after a while, then visualize that golden light is pouring in, bringing all the realizations of the path. And let that really suffuse your being with refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Namo Guruvya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghya. sit in the space of the mantra recitation for a moment. And then the entire visualization begins to dissolve into light, absorbing into the central figure of Shakyamuni Buddha. And then a replica of Shakyamuni Buddha comes to the crown of your head and dissolves into you, into your heart, completely suffusing your body with light. Suffusing your mind with light. And your body, speech, and mind become inseparable from the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, and concentrate on this. And then let's dedicate. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So we're going to go offline here in a minute. I mean, just give the question. And also we'll go offline if the community people have things they need to do. Now would be the time to go. For those who wish to stay and want to exchange, we'll do our little discussion group. So the question really is, how does our understanding of the Four Noble Truths, how is that our refuge? How is that personally for me? How is my own understanding and my practice of the Four Noble Truths, my awareness of Four Noble Truths, how is that a refuge for me? And how do I rely on that? Okay.